What's up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. Now, guys, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss, such as UC Irvine taking down UCLA in the NCAA men's volleyball tournament. How did the Anteaters do it? How did they take down UCLA at UCLA? Also, how about Ball State taking down Pepperdine? They looked really good, and they managed to make a late comeback. And Long Beach State and Hawaii both got past their respective opponents in the first round as well. First two rounds as well. Then you had UCLA beach volleyball winning the whole thing, as those little Bruins are back on top, and Jenny Johnson-Jordan made some history as well. Also, the MLB playoffs are set. 4 teams remain, but only one shall win the match for the million. Also, you have some other volleyball to discuss, such as CIS Southern Section Boys Volleyball Division 1 playoffs and the NAIA tournament where one team managed to go perfect. Canadian volleyball, set, because I'm about to bring some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you're listening from. Either way, you've made your way in episode 349 of Set Point. Without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on YouTube and on X. Please do follow iSports Radio on X at iSports Radio. And also subscribe if you haven't already. We did get some subscribers after I was able to post and do and conduct those NCAA men's volleyball tournament interviews via Zoom. So definitely do check those out and definitely subscribe to iSports Radio if you haven't already. We've surpassed 450 followers or subscribers. We need to continue to reach 500. That's the goal before we can start making big moves. So definitely do subscribe to iSports Radio on YouTube. And who knows, maybe if you want me to continue the content that I pumped out this past week, then just let me know. Also, make sure to check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, soon to come back, our page is dedicated to each show, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop, and so much more. For the last 11 years, soon to be 12 years, iSports Radio is bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, like I pretty much did last week, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Biscuit Beef Jerky, and Vital Apparel. So without any further delay, let's get on into what our sponsors are all about. I'll see you all in a little bit.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out our website. And definitely, if you haven't already, subscribe to IE Sports Radio and check out our sponsors as well. We would all greatly appreciate it. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as TikTok at set_point.ie. I know I still haven't really posted a whole lot on TikTok. I need to get back into the TikTok game. And also follow Set Point on Instagram as well at set_point IESR. And I just got to say, to all those that one of my videos did surpass 1 million views. I don't know how, I don't know why, but for those who basically gave me 1 million views on Justin Todd of Hawaii men's volleyball bouncing a ball straight down, thank you. It really means a lot. I simply can't believe it. But yeah, Instagram's kind of where I'm mainly going. I really got to get back. Once again, I got to get back into the Twitter game or the TikTok game. You can also follow me personally on X as well at Teran Rodriguez 1. So without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. So last weekend, let's talk some NCAA men's volleyball, as last weekend was actually a first. It was a first for basically the NCAA men's volleyball world. There was it was the first time we've ever had regionals in the NCAA men's volleyball tournament, or the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament, as the proper vernacular is called. But yeah, there were 12 teams this tournament. The top 4 seeds got a bye, and they got the opportunity to host, which I think was really cool, if you ask me. And also, we have a fan. He says UCI. Oh, I'll get into that a little bit later. I'll get into UCI a little bit. But yeah, first time we've ever had regionals. Top 4 seeds got to host, and they got a first round bye, while the other teams got to battle it out in the regional semifinal. So, long story short, for the regional semifinals, it was all chalk. So it was pretty much all chalk, with the exception of one match, which could have gone either way. But long story short, to go in chronological order, Pepperdine swept Fort Valley State. Long story short, with this matchup, Pepperdine wasn't really in any danger. Pepperdine didn't allow Fort Valley State to surpass 20 points. And look, I feel bad for Fort Valley State just because they more often than not win the SIAC, and they're going to lose Isaiah Fed to graduation, as well as Tavion Martin. But it just shows that they're still kind of in that infancy stage. And even when they have a tough schedule, they played the likes of CSUN, USC, UCLA, Long Beach State. It still is kind of the gap between them and another opponent that they face is still pretty wide. But it's kind of a moment of they're happy to be there, and they played with house money, and they didn't, give up. Because I saw the highlights and I saw the match at times. Unfortunately, it just did not pan out the way it wanted for them. It didn't pan out the way it wanted to for them. So next up, we have the best matchup from the first round, or the regional semifinals, UC Irvine versus Penn State. Oh man, this one was everything and more. And this was, and by the way, that Pepperdine Fort Valley State matchup took place in Noblesville, Indiana. So unfortunately, Ball State had its graduation last week, and sadly they couldn't have the matches in Muncie, Indiana. So they actually played in Noblesville, which was good, which was nice. I'm glad Ball State was able to accommodate and think swiftly despite graduation. So there you have it. So now let's move on to Penn State UC Irvine at UCLA. This took place at the Los Angeles Poly Pavilion, which was the site of the semifinals and the national championship. In the end, UC Irvine won a thriller. They wound up taking down Penn State in a 5-set barn burner. As man, you couldn't have scripted a better first round matchup between that. He says, affectionately call it Muncie, Indiana. Yes, Muncie, Indiana. Muncie. There's some good food there. But back to UC Irvine, Penn State. Look, this was an instant classic. And part of me was really pulling for either team. I wouldn't have minded if either team got past the first round. But honestly, it's a shame that one team had to lose. And unfortunately, that team was sadly Penn State, which means sadly Mark Pavlik's coaching career is in the books. It was very, 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 very sad. And yeah, and John Davidson Wilson says the Penn State surfing was wild until it wasn't. So looking at Penn State was led by Sean Harvey, who had 18 kills, and Tristan Hassel. He made an impact. He's only a freshman. He had 14 kills, but UC Irvine has a dynamic freshman of their own, named Andre Jokanovich. He had 12 kills. He didn't lead the team in the kill department, but he was one of 4 different players with 10 or more kills. Will Darcy had 13 kills. Micah Goss and Trevor Clark both had 10 kills. I really think UC Irvine has arguably the best middles in the nation. They're not as glamorous as some of the other middles, but I think they're vastly underrated. If not, I think they deserve the respect they deserve, because Trevor Clark is actually transitioning from pin hitter to middle blocker, and Micah Goss is still Micah Goss. He's showing no signs of a freshman hangover. So looking back at it, Micah Goss and Trevor Clark, to me, were just outstanding. And overall, it was a fantastic match. UC Irvine to me they were just strong. They were just strong for the most part, but both teams were just neck and neck. I mean, UC Irvine hit 390, and that's no easy feat against a scrappy team like Penn State. And this is my takeaway for UC Irvine Penn State. It's good that UC Irvine lost some of these 5-set matches, because if you remember back in the regular season, they lost 5-setters to the likes of Hawaii, USC, UCLA, Long Beach State, UC Santa Barbara. They did have a few 5-set wins here and there against the likes of BYU twice, and they also beat UC San Diego. But honestly, they just couldn't pull out that big-time 5-set win. So overall, it was just he says, "Let's go Brink." Yeah, Johannes Brink. I'll talk again. I'll get to him in a little bit. And he says, "This is what we were since for the preseason." Oh yeah, the Dane. But UC Irvine. It's good that they had a lot of 5-set matches under their belt. Did they win a lot of those 5-set matches? No. But it was good that they had them. I know Penn State played a lot of 5-set matches as well. However, it's like you could kind of compare the 5-set matches between the two teams. And you can only play the teams that are on your schedule. I get it. But UC Irvine went all out scheduling. Penn State, they kind of did the same thing as well. But at the same time, they didn't play against the 5-setters against the likes of like USC or Long Beach State or anyone else on their schedule. They did go 4 against Hawaii, but going 4 isn't like going 5. So there you go. So yeah, that was a very good win by UC Irvine. Easily the best first-round match by far. Now, for the second best first-round match, that actually went to Loyola versus St. Francis. This was the match that I was at, and I had some suspicion that this match was going to be good, and I was right. However, Loyola did sweep them. Even though it was a sweep, Loyola really, really took care of business. And here's the thing. They didn't play their cleanest. However, they played strong to the point where they were able to outwit St. Francis. And St. Francis has some dogs on that team of theirs. And it's a real shame that they're going into NCAA Division III next year. Well, all their athletic programs are going to NCAA Division III. But the fact that they're going to NCAA Division III and they have a men's volleyball team like that is a crime against humanity. Part of me really wants St. Francis to win their way up in Division III and then have, everyone just vote them, move them back to NCAA Division I and so on and so forth. But yeah, Loyola swept St. Francis 30-28, 29-27, and 25-20. St. Francis was led by Brady Stump, who had 20 kills. He had almost half of the kills that St. Francis had. Their next kill leader was Cole Dorn, who had 9 kills. They also got 7 kills from Nathan Zini. Loyola was led by Alexander Sosa, who had 15 kills. Now, that is a name that we haven't really seen a whole lot of just because he was actually injured early in the season. I thought Loyola was going to win this one in 4 just because I thought St. Francis had a good chance because they've got some talent on that team. And the NEC is no joke. I think the NEC is not like your grandma's in NEC just because they've got some scrappy teams in there. And St. Francis had to fight their way through the NEC, even losing to the likes of Manhattan and LIU. So I think for St. Francis, it was a tough way for them to go out, but they threw everything in the kitchen sink at Loyola. And then after the match, I talked to a few of the Loyola fans and some of the parents. One of them was Jake Reed's mom, and she said, and I told her that Loyola can't afford to play I wouldn't say down, but play their sloppiness, play sloppy against the likes of a team like that. They can get away with that against the likes of St. Francis or a team ranked below them. But against a team like Long Beach State or Hawaii or UC Irvine or UCLA, you can't afford to play sloppy against a team like that. So Loyola wound up winning, but there were clearly some glaring issues. I mean, they served tough. They were on a serving spree out there, and they only held St. Francis. They held St. Francis to only two service aces. So overall, to me, I think it was a great match. It was pretty good for a 3-set match. I mean, St. Francis had their opportunities, but unfortunately, just some late mistakes sadly kind of got in their way. And it's really tough just because that St. Francis team is much better than what their record shows. And they actually had a pretty decent record. It's just that they just didn't get the respect because they're in the NEC. And yeah, respect to St. Francis, respect to the last hurrah for St. Francis. I totally agree. And Mike Rumbaugh, or Rummy as he likes to be called, he said it best. He said the program is still in good hands and the program is still totally fine. It's just that they have to go down to Division III, which really sucks. And honestly, it's a bummer, but I'm sure they'll thrive there, especially for their men's volleyball team. I know they're going to get hit hard in terms of graduation, but they have a foundation when it comes to their program. And then flying on down to Honolulu, we had USC versus Belmont Abbey in the Honolulu/Hawaii regional semifinal, and USC did sweep Belmont Abbey, though the third set it looked a little close. Belmont Abbey was not going to go down without a fight. They were literally trying to push a 4-4 set, but USC being so talented, they wound up taking them down. I mean, look, nothing against Belmont Abbey. They did everything they could, and this has kind of been the thing about Belmont Abbey. They always show some fight no matter who they face against, whether it's UCLA or USC or anything of that sort. It's just that USC just has way too much firepower. Even when some of their guys aren't like on their A game. I mean, Dylan Klein led the way with 11 kills, but you also had Cooper Keene stepping up with 10 kills. Sterling Foley added 9 kills. As a team, USC hit 417, and Andrew Chapin was setting the offense. So I'm not going to lie, I actually did not know what happened with Caleb Blanchett, but Andrew Chapin was setting the offense. So yeah, that's a massive turn of events right there. So I can't really ultimately tell you what happened with not Parker Tompkinson, Caleb Blanchett, but Chapin, it's now his team to set. So it was a real fascinating matchup right there. So, all right, that's that for the regional semifinals. So now we go on to the regional finals. Like I said, it was all chalk. Pretty much the favorites were the one that wound up winning it. So let's go one by one in chronological order, starting with Ball State versus Pepperdine. This one was a doozy. I got a chance to watch the tail end of this matchup before the Long Beach State Loyola matchup. And honestly, and yeah, this one was a thriller. As Brian Francione says, good evening. Shoot. Brian says, good evening, Teran. Good to see you get access to the NCAA tourney for volleyball. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. And yeah, it was good. I'll talk about my experience a little later, but Ball State Pepperdine, instant classic. I thought this was the comeback of the season. Ball State was down. We got to fast forward to the fifth set. Ball State was down. I want to say they were down 11-9. That's for sure. I think Pepperdine actually led. I'm sorry, Ball State led by like 4 or so, and then Pepperdine led 11-9, and then Ball State rattled off 2 straight points to tie it up at a French fry score of 11-11. Eventually, Pepperdine had match point at 14-12 after a block from Cole Hartke. But then Pepperdine misses the serve. I think it was served long. Either way, they had a service error. And then on the next point, Pepperdine comes up with a massive block and suddenly was tied 14-14. Then at 14-14, I think it was Ryan Lewis. He dealt a service ace to give Ball State its first match point of the match. And it was like, wow. It was unbelievable. And then the final point of the match was a walk-off service ace. It was just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. It was just wow. Ball State, they had a lot of grittiness when it came to them playing on their home floor, and I'm really happy for them. I mean, this is actually their first Final Four appearance since 2022, when you guessed it, that was the last time a MIVA team made the Final Four. And I'm sorry, it wasn't Ryan Lewis. It was Patrick Rogers. So it was Patrick Rogers at the service line, not Ryan Lewis. But Patrick Rogers dealt back-to-back service aces to put Ball State at match point and then to give them the match. He actually had 15 kills to go along with those 4 service aces. He also had 9 digs as well. Ryan Lewis led the kill department with 16 kills. He also had 12 kills from Will Patterson. As a team, Ball State hit 347. It was a very good match. Honestly, I thought this was going to be match of the night, but let me just tell you, there's another match that I got to go over, but more on that later. But for Pepperdine, here's my thing. I picked Pepperdine to go to the Final Four. I thought Pepperdine was going to close out, but you got to close out in that situation. But unfortunately, they just didn't. As Cole Hartke had a monster performance. He had 23 kills. He had 8 digs. They also got 13 kills each from Ryan Barnett and Jose Gomez. And Pepperdine actually hit 297, which I thought was pretty good. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. As sadly, Pepperdine is going to lose out on some of their starters like Jacob Riley and James Eady. But I think Pepperdine will be back. I think also Ryan Barnett as well. But, man, that's such a tough way to lose. Losing off of back-to-back service. Well, first of all, you had 2 match points. You register a service error, and then you get blocked at the net, and then you get aced twice. That's just the worst way to lose by your own hands. And it's unfortunate, but Ball State deserves a lot of credit. The fact that they were hosting is just outstanding. Was outstanding, albeit it wasn't in Muncie, but I digress. In addition, Ball State hadn't been to the, like I said, they hadn't been to the Final Four since 2022, and I think that was their last tournament appearance, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was their last tournament appearance. But either way, Ball State deserves a lot of credit for their comeback. So a great job to Ball State and a tough loss for Pepperdine, but this match could have gone either way. I mean, Pepperdine was kind of the popular upset pick, quote unquote, according to Matthew Houlihan. But honestly, this match could have gone either way. All right, now let's go over the match. Let's go over the match, the best match of the regional finals. UCLA, UC Irvine. So it was round 2 between the Anteaters and the Bruins. And, oh, man, this one had everything and more. So Irvine got the early jump on them, and let's actually turn the page. So this matchup had everything and more. It was just outstanding. So the first set, UC Irvine got the early jump on them. They managed to outlast them, winning the first set 25-23. Second set was kind of more so UCLA waking up. They wound up winning that second set 25-19. Third set was pretty much the same. UC Irvine got an early jump, held off a UCLA comeback to win the third set 25-23 to lead the match 2-1. Kind of the same situation that UC Irvine was in when they took on UCLA the first go around at Brent Event Center. The fourth set was basically the same. UCLA managed to build a nice little cushion to take the fourth set 25-19. Then the fifth set happened. UCLA led 8-4 at the side switch. And I was thinking, all right, well, it looks like UCLA's got this. Not so fast, my friend. UC Irvine eventually went on a 5-1 run to tie the fifth set up at 9-9. They eventually led 10-9, and they eventually led 12-11. And then UCLA rounded off 3 straight points. And just like that, UCLA had match point. And this was the point. This was the point that I think that was heard all across the world. So UC Irvine sets the ball to Johannes Brink, who is having himself a great season. Glad to see he's healthy. He supposedly hits it wide, and UCLA wins, right? David Niffen challenges it because you're obviously not going to take your challenges to Cancun with you. So Niffen challenges it, and apparently there was a touch. So everyone is saying that there was no touch, and looking back at it, there was no touch. Look, I will just say this. UCLA should have never gotten into that situation. It should have never gotten to the point where they were 14-12, and it never should have gotten to the point where UC Irvine drew that close. And besides, UCLA still had another match point opportunity, and they fed the ball. Looking back at the match, they could have fed the ball. I was thinking they got to feed the ball to one of 2 players, Sean Kelly or Cam Thorne. They fed the ball to Cam Thorne, but he hit it wide. that is something you rarely see from Cam. It's like, oh my goodness. So it was tied 14-14. And then next point, UC Irvine wins a long rally courtesy of Brink. He manages to get a kill off the block. It's suddenly match point for UC Irvine at 15-14. And then on the next point, it was a decent serve, decent pass, but Andrew Rowan sets the ball far to Zach Rama, who hits it wide, and UC Irvine manages to win the match in 5, 16-14. Oh, man. Every UCLA fan was probably punching air and just frustrated. And look, my heart goes out to UCLA. But like I said, it should have never gotten to that point. They should have never given up that 4-point lead. They should have never gotten to the point where UC Irvine was within 2. They should have finished off their opponent. Because when you have your opponent that close to you and the game is decided courtesy of the refs, you don't deserve to win. So I'm sorry. I mean, yes, there was no touch, but let's be realistic. UC Irvine or UCLA should have never been put in that situation. So I'm sorry. I really am sorry, but that's just my takeaway. I mean, there was no touch, but UCLA shouldn't have been put in that situation anyway. And I honestly thought I couldn't believe that Cam Thorne hit that wide. I was like, wow, because Cam Thorne is dynamite. And I will just go as far as to say, I said that UC Irvine has some of the best middles in the nation. I think UCLA also has some of the best middles in the nation. So, yeah. These are the 3 seniors that will that UCLA will be losing to graduation: Andrew Rowan, Zach Rama, and Cam Thorne. Something to note is that David Decker is graduating, but according to John Hawks, if you saw my interview with him, good for you, Decker will be back for one more season. So, yeah, unbelievable for Rowan, Rama, and Thorne. And, yeah, it was just unbelievable. A lot of brackets were busted. And, I'm happy for Will Darcy as well. To quote Will Darcy and a lot of the UC Irvine boys, full credit to the boys for that win. Full credit to the comeback, and full credit to David Niffen, because obviously you challenge no matter what happens. And again, I don't agree with the call. I didn't see a touch, but if this is the point where this is one of 2 things. One, you'd hate to be an official because it's so tough to be an official. And then 2, it's like I said, UCLA should have never been put in that situation where they were just clinging to a 2-point lead. They should have been up by a lot more if they were just dominant, but they weren't. So, and I got to give it up to, as someone called Trevor Clark, float serve Jesus. I kid you not. Joe McCurdy, if you follow him on Instagram and I guess TikTok, he called Trevor Clark float serve Jesus. I mean, he does have a pretty darn good float serve, but float serve Jesus? I digress. So, but yeah, UC Irvine advances, so they will face Ball State in the Final Four, just like everyone predicted. And if you had UC Irvine upsetting UCLA, take a bow. But yeah, UCLA is out after one match. This actually marks the first time since 2016 that UCLA failed to win an NCAA tournament match while making the tournament. It's very, 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 very surprising. And hopefully Darcy can bring the offense and efficiency against Ball State. I am all for the many sets to the middles, Clark and Goss. Oh yeah, me too. If they get those guys going, UC Irvine's so tough to stop because it just can't be Andre Jokanovich. As great as he is as a freshman, I just think they need to go to Goss and Clark as well. So moving on. So yeah, that was the Ball State, Pepperdine, and UC Irvine, UCLA were the best 2 matches, but I got to give the nod to UC Irvine, UCLA. I'm sorry, UCLA fans, but it is what it is. All right, so now let's go to the match that I went to. So Long Beach State, Loyola. Of all the matches in the regional finals, I had to pick the one where it was a sweep. I mean, it was a decent match, but honestly, Long Beach State was practically more efficient than Loyola, even though it didn't show in the numbers, because Loyola actually out-hit Long Beach State just by a little bit, though. And they also out-blocked them, but in terms of like service pressure, Long Beach State won that category by a metric mile. And also Loyola missed 17 serves. You can't miss 17 serves against Long Beach State. And Long Beach State only missed 8 serves and they also had 8 service aces, while Loyola only had 1 ace. And that was, I wouldn't say the luckiest ace, but it was the quote unquote dirty ace, or the ace off the tape. But yeah, Long Beach State swept Loyola. Skylar Varga led the way with 14 kills, while Connor Bloom had 12 kills. Those two are seniors for Long Beach State, so it was only fitting that they wound up having having the match of their life. Okay, maybe not the match of their life, but having another big time match for Long Beach State at the Pyramid. And then Wojciech Gajek had 9 kills, even though it wasn't a monster performance like it was against Hawaii in the Big West Conference Finals. It still was pretty efficient. And then Jackson Christ had another big time service match, as he had 3 service aces to go along with 4 kills. So overall for Long Beach State, it was just an efficient, clean match. Now for Loyola, my takeaway for them is this. Remember when I said that Loyola can get away with playing a little sloppy against teams like St. Francis and teams that are below them? Well, they couldn't get away with playing sloppy against Long Beach State. And sadly, playing sloppy against Long Beach State will just doom you, especially since you're on the road. So I'll give it up to Loyola for this. They've got a lot of good studs coming back, like Daniel Fabakovic, Alexander Sosa, Alex Smits-Van Ooyen, who sent when Ryan McElligott was out due to injury, Oscar Berg-Mikkelsen, Jake Reed, who I think is probably their spark plug and that they need to go to in the event that one of their players are struggling. So, but they do lose the likes of Josh Schellender to graduation, JJ Sawa to graduation, Ryan McElligott to graduation. They also return Aiden Klein next year, so I think Loyola will be fine. I should also make note that the win over St. Francis was their first NCAA tournament win since 2015, when they last won the national championship, or when they last won their last national championship. But regardless, 2015, when they beat Lewis in the national championship, was the last time they wound up winning an NCAA tournament match. They probably should have won one last year when they had Parker Van Buren, but sadly that was not the case. So, yeah, this is actually a pretty good question. So, can Long Beach win with Bloom and no Kondev? Well, so might as well just go into this topic right here. So, yes, I think they can, and here's why. Long Beach State's motto was all 17 players, and it wasn't just about like 6, 7, 8 players. It's all 17 players making an impact, whether it's in practice, whether it's in a match, so on and so forth. Long Beach State can definitely win with Connor Bloom. Then they also still have Skylar Varga, and it's not just him. It's also Jackson Christ. Ben Braun also comes up big. Wojciech Gajek, he's really come alive. Dane Hillis has even come alive. If you all remember the Big West Conference Tournament Championship, Dane Hillis had a block against Adrian Rohr of Hawaii, and that was only his 4th collegiate career block. I kid you not. That was only his 4th block in his collegiate career. So it was wild, if you ask me. So yeah, to answer this question, yes, I think Long Beach can win with Bloom and no Kondev. I mean, if Kondev plays, then so be it. But this is kind of the case. This is almost like last year when Long Beach didn't have Sotiris Chapanis and they had to go with Alex Kondev. But now they're turning to Connor Bloom with Alex Kondev out, and Long Beach State is going to have to bank on him, which he's definitely done a good job of making an impact. So, yeah. But overall, this match, it was kind of the most underwhelming. I thought Loyola was going to push it to at least 4. I wasn't expecting this to be like it was an hour and 42 minutes, so it was the shortest of the bunch. So there you go. So actually, let's quickly. Yeah, here's the final set scores: 25-21, 25-21, 25-19. I mean, Loyola, give them credit. They did all they could. I mean, they like I said, they outblocked them. The only thing that they really struggled with was serving, and you just can't spoon feed Long Beach State free point after free point after free point. And they didn't really have the best serving match against St. Francis as well, so that's something Loyola might want to work on. But honestly, I think Loyola will be fine for next year. I mean, they're probably going to have some of their young guns step up, or they might get another good transfer too. So I think Loyola will be fine. I mean, it's probably going to be between them and Ball State in terms of the MIVA, but that's for next year. All right, now for the last one. The last one we had was Hawaii USC. This one was a fun matchup. And Hawaii did wind up taking down USC in 4 at a very, very packed and sold-out Stan Sheriff Center. So, it was an absolute madhouse right there. And I'm just going to say this. USC did everything they could. In front of a hostile environment, they were resilient as heck. The only problem is they got off to slow starts in terms of certain sets. Like the first set, they got off to a slow start, tried to bring it back, but unfortunately, they just couldn't, as Hawaii took the first set 25-22. USC, they actually were leading by quite a good chunk. I think they led by 5 or more. And Hawaii came back, but USC was able to take the second set 26-24. USC led at the media timeout, but then Hawaii was able to turn the tide, and USC led 21-20. But Hawaii was able to end the set on a 5-2 run, capped off by 2 service aces from Teran Rodriguez. And then Hawaii actually led by as many as 7 in set 4. They were up 20-13. And I'm thinking, all right, it's over. Sorry, USC, good season. But I think losing set 3 was kind of the deflating moment for you all. But USC said, not so fast, my friend. And they fought on. They fought all the way back to tying the matchup at 24-24. It was just unbelievable. I'm like, no freaking way, dude. And USC fought off 6 or 7 match points. I'm sorry to have to use those numbers, but it's the truth. But Hawaii was able to take the match. Now, Justin Todd was a player that did come back for Hawaii. If you remember, Justin Todd hurt his left foot in the semifinal match against UC San Diego, and he actually didn't play against Long Beach State. Not that Ofek Kazan wasn't serviceable, but Justin Todd had a wicked mean serve, and unfortunately for USC, they passed it way too high, which hit the jumbotron and passed onto the other side of Hawaii, which was passed out of play. And by rule, that is a point for Hawaii, and that is how Hawaii beat USC. So technically, they won on a walk-off service ace from Justin Todd. So, oh man, that was just unbelievable. Yeah, I'm gonna miss Dylan Klein. I just gotta throw that out there as well. I'm gonna miss watching Dylan Klein play volleyball as well. And he says, gotta love throwing the ball up to your best player again and again at the end. Yeah, Dylan Klein was on a mission. He did not want his college volleyball career to come to an end. Klein actually led the way with 16 kills. Sterling Foley had 13 kills. I hope Sterling Foley is ready because, well, for starters, next year's he's going to probably be the top option. If he can stay healthy, I think Foley can be a big-time threat when it comes to this team. And yeah, we did finally get to see Tompkinson and Smith, Wes Smith and Parker Tompkinson. Yeah, both of those guys were definitely impact players for USC, but unfortunately it was not enough. And I should also mention this fun fact, or I guess not so fun fact. USC went 0-3 this year when Sterling Foley did not wear his standard number 12 jersey. He wore 21 in this USC Hawaii match, and sadly USC lost again. So the moral of this story for Sterling Foley, he's got to wear his number 12 jersey instead of number 21. Stop forgetting that jersey, or make sure that that number 12 jersey does not let anything bad happen to it. Anyway, so for Hawaii, they were led by Christian Tetrisky, who had 19 kills. This was Christian Tetrisky's first ever NCAA tournament appearance, because remember, last year he missed the whole tournament due to a back injury. And yeah, he kind of he missed the entire, well, actually, well, no, it was an ankle injury. The back injury was this year. But either way, Tetrisky finally got a chance to taste the postseason. Louis Sakanoko had 12 kills. Didn't have his best match, but thankfully, you have players like Adrian Rohr, who had 13 kills. He had 7 service aces, which I think is an NCAA tournament match records, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. Quentin Greenidge also had 9 kills, which was also pretty nice. Hawaii utilized a lot of players, and it's good that Justin Todd made his return. And I guess Justin Todd's quote-unquote walk-off service ace wasn't actually ruled an ace. It was just a reception error. But I'll call it a walk-off service ace. It was a tough serve. And by the way, Justin Todd had 3 blocks and 6 kills, so it's good that he's back. But Tervel Jordan also had 8 kills on a hitting percentage of .667. So overall, it was a great matchup. I mean, I also got to, and yeah, it was a fantastic matchup. I do got to show y'all something. This was on X. This was courtesy of Tiff Wells. The match was sold out, and I guess the turnstile was like 9,937. I mean, and those were all the numbers when it came to the regional finals. Yeah, Long Beach State didn't even have, they only had 1,716 in attendance. They actually had the second most in terms of the regional finals, while UCLA had a bit over 1,600, and then Ball State Pepperdine had 1,292. So those are the numbers right there. And then for the numbers regarding the regional semifinals, that surprisingly had the Hawaii regional semifinal between Belmont Abbey and USC had 2,900 plus, while the others didn't even crack 1,000. I mean, UC Irvine, Penn State, I could see having a decent showing, but I'm surprised Loyola St. Francis was not a bigger showing. But obviously Pepperdine, Fort Valley State. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's kind of got the lowest of the numbers, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So that's kind of the numbers. Thank you to Tiff Wells, or should I say hat tip to Tiff Wells on those numbers, as well as Christian Shimibuku. And yeah, it was a good turnstile. And this kind of just goes to show that Hawaii should be hosting the matches in the NCAA tournament, because it brings in a lot of revenue and it brings in a lot of fans to the seats. Is it going to be tough? Because now here's my thing. It's going to be tough for them to host the Final Four in the national championship, just because you got to get 4 teams and a bunch of players and administrators and all that sort of thing over from certain parts of the earth to Hawaii. And you don't even know if Hawaii is going to be in that Final Four. So it could be 3, it could be 4. And then you also got to take into consideration regionals, flying teams out for regionals as well. So if they can get past the financial issues of it, I think Hawaii would be a great place to host the Final Four national championship. Unfortunately, it would be tough for people like me who aren't really made of money, just because hotel accommodations, flights, and so on and so forth. So there you go. All right, but that is that for the regional finals. So your Final Four, dun dun dun, is this. This is your Final Four: Ball State, UC Irvine, and then Long Beach State, Hawaii. So according to the NCAA website, Ball State, UC Irvine is confirmed for Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I was Saturday years old when I found out what PDT meant. I thought it meant Pacific Daylight Time, or Pacific Daylight Savings Time, and it's not in Pacific Standard Time, which whatever. And then Long Beach State, Hawaii will start at approximately 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. But that's approximately. It could start at 7 in the event that Ball State, UC Irvine go 5, just like how Grand Canyon, Long Beach State started a half hour later after UCLA, UC Irvine went 5. But I digress. But yeah, this is your Final Four. I do want to give a shout out to Izzy, aka the Volleyball Recap. Let me just get rid of this right here. Yeah, follow Izzy, aka the Volleyball Recap, on Instagram. He makes some darn good graphics, dude. And he allowed me to use this one, and I promised him I'd give him credit. So thank you, Izzy, aka the Volleyball Recap, for letting me use this graphic. But now it's time to predict. Get this off the screen. Now it's time to predict who's going to win the national championship. or who's going to make it to the national championship and who's going to win the national championship. So first semifinal, UC Irvine, Ball State. Man, this one is tough. I mean, if you had UC Irvine making it from the get-go, give yourself a pat on the back. Here's the thing. Ball State, they're so underratedly good. I said early on in the season, buy stock into Ball State, whether it was on Instagram or whether it was on here. But yeah, this Ball State team is starting to come into its own. I mean, Patrick Rogers, Ryan Lewis, they're just outstanding. And Ball State has some pretty darn good middles as well. They've had to shuffle those middles around due to injuries and so on and so forth. But I think this Ball State team is definitely playing at a high level. Now, for UC Irvine, here's the thing about UC Irvine. They're starting to come into their own really quick, and they're starting to win 5-set matches. And even though they've got a young team with only 3 seniors, with Aiden Schulten, Beck Weber, and Will Darcy, they're starting to play better volleyball. And I think this team definitely deserves to be in the Final Four. I know UCLA fans are going to disagree to the maximum, but I digress. But man, who do I have advancing past between Ball State and UC Irvine? You know what? I've thought really hard about this. And you know what? I'm going to go with I'll go with Ball State. Here's why. I think Ball State's neither team has Final Four experience except for Will Darcy. That being said, I think Ball State's senior experience is going to be too much for UC Irvine. I think UC Irvine is going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Ball State, but I think in the end, the Cardinals come out on top. And look, it does me no good to pick against UC Irvine. I love UC Irvine. I love those boys. And yeah, unfortunately, I just feel Ball State will have just enough in the tank to make it past the Anteaters. But I think that one could go either way. It certainly was not on my bingo card. Because if you remember, I picked Pepperdine and UCLA to advance to the Final Four. And then both of them just straight up lost 5-setters. So it is what it is. So I've got Ball State advancing to the national championship. So we shall see. And yeah, it is good to have a consistent go-to player or two. So the next semifinal is Long Beach State, Hawaii. And this is the one that I have. This isn't even, you thought Ball State, UC Irvine was a tough matchup to predict. Hawaii, Hawaii, Long Beach State is an even tougher matchup to predict. Just because on one hand, Justin Todd is back. And I think he makes a massive difference. But it's not like Ofek Hazan laid a goose egg against Long Beach State in the Big West Conference Tournament Championship. It's not like that. Like, Ofek Hazan was so totally serviceable. That being said, man, Hawaii is good, but if they have, I wouldn't say clunker matches, but if they have kind of some semi-stinker matches like they did against USC, like they can get away with that considering they were playing at home, but can they do so against Long Beach State? Like, Long Beach State now officially has the secret weapon unlocked with Wojciech Gajek, and Skylar Varga. Connor Bloom is kind of finally, has kind of consistently gotten into the rotation, had a nice feel for the rotation. You also have the likes of Kellen Larson just being a beast at the libero position, and then Jake Pizzanti's also doing good at center. And Long Beach State also has some good middles as well. I mean, Jackson Christ, this guy has just been unbelievable. And even when he makes mistakes, he does not get rattled. So I think for Long Beach State, this one can go either way. But, I mean, you can't go wrong with picking Hawaii, but you also can't go wrong with picking Long Beach State. But that being said, I've actually got Long Beach State advancing. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from Hawaii fans, but here's the thing. Hawaii is the number 2 seed. And the last time a number 2 seed won the NCAA tournament was 2019. But it gets worse. Ever since the NCAA tournament, in terms of men's volleyball, has had seedings back in 2011, the 2 seed has only won the national championship twice. Once in 2013 when UC Irvine won it, and then once in 2019 when Long Beach State won it. So I'm not trying to say that that's going to be the reason why Hawaii loses, but I also think that also Long Beach State has their philosophy of all 17 players, and all 17 players are going to give it their all. They're going to give it their all, whether it's Dane Hillis, whether it's Kellen Larson, Jake Pizzanti, Island Doty, Ben Braun, Jackson Chris, Skylar Varga, Connor Bloom, Wojciech Gajek, Daniil Hirshdanovich, so on and so forth. I think this team, I think Long Beach State will have just enough in the tank. That being said, if Hawaii doesn't miss a bunch of serves and they don't play their worst match, I think Hawaii can definitely advance. But I have Long Beach State advancing, which means my national championship rerouted from this Final Four would be Ball State, Long Beach State, and this would also be another tough matchup to predict. I mean, Ball State has some firepower, but so does Long Beach State. But that being said, I have Long Beach State repeating. And now here's the reason why. A few reasons why. One, it's because the whole back-to-back prophecy will continue, just because ever since 2012 and 2013, a team has repeated as a national champion in NCAA men's volleyball. 2012 and 13 was UC Irvine. 2014 and 15 was Loyola. 2016 and 17 was Ohio State. 2018 and 19 was Long Beach State. 2021 and 22 was Hawaii. 2023 and 24 was UCLA. And then 2025 is Long Beach State. But the big question is, can they continue that trend? I think they can. Now, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take everybody. And here's the thing about this matchup. Ball State can be a matchup problem for anybody, but they could also be a match, but any opponent could maybe be a matchup problem for them, just because they've had moments where they've kind of gone in the wrong direction. But you got to, another reason why I want Ball State and Long Beach State is because it would be the battle of two first-year head coaches, Mike Iandolo of Ball State and then Nick McCray of Long Beach State, even though McCray has been at Long Beach State longer. But I think Iandolo was an assistant as well. But overall, I think it would be awesome to see a first-year head coach win the national championship, no matter who it is, between Ball State and Long Beach State. So I have Long Beach State, Ball State advancing. And then I have Long Beach State winning the national championship. Now watch the final just be UCI versus Hawaii, and then Hawaii wins this whole thing. That would be the ultimate irony, or the ultimate slap in the face. But yeah, I'm just going to say this in advance to Hawaii fans. I apologize. If my prediction of Long Beach State advancing is false, I give you all permission to let me have it. But I'm confident in my pick. Ball State over UC Irvine, Long Beach State over Hawaii, and then Long Beach State over Ball State. So that is my prediction for the Final Four, and that's my preview of the entire Final Four National Championship. The National Championship will be 1 week from tonight, which means Set Point will not be going live. And hopefully, I will have access to the Final Four in the National Championship. I just need to get the green light from UCLA. I did fill out my NCAA credential, so hopefully they approve me and I get the green light to come down to Westwood to cover the Final Four in the National Championship. So there you have it. That is that for the NCAA men's volleyball side of things. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some NCAA beach volleyball to discuss, some MLV, and a little high school boys volleyball. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans. we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson,
It's your boy, Dentarius Lava.
and we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows. And definitely check out our website, iSportsRadio.com. Welcome back to the second half of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Once again, I appreciate everybody that tuned in. As Mikey Two Guns actually popped into the chat room, he said, "Great show, man. How are you doing?" I'm doing good. Thank you for popping in. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot that you tuned in. And also, I do got to thank John David Wilson Fink. I appreciate you for tuning in as well and commenting. That really means a lot. That really, I greatly appreciate it, man. So thank you. Much appreciated. So yeah. And he says he also says going to come down to serving. I definitely agree. Whoever serves effectively and tough will win this whole thing in terms of the NCAA tournament. I mean, it can even be UC Irvine winning the whole thing, and that would be a tremendous Cinderella story. I mean, not that Irvine was a Cinderella. Like Cinderella would have probably been like Fort Valley State winning the whole thing, but you know what I mean. So let's get back into the volleyball action. So let's actually talk some NCAA beach volleyballs, just because, well, we got to make note of that, and it happened last weekend. And I'll also make note of the NAIA men's volleyball, the NAIA men's volleyball tournament. So when it came down to it, UCLA wound up winning the national championship as they are back on top of the NCAA beach volleyball world as they cruised past Stanford. But let's break down how everybody got here and so on and so forth. So the 16-team tournament happened, and let's go in chronological order if that's obviously possible. So I know the first matchup was USC versus Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and I'm gonna be 100% realistic. Not a lot of these matches were really, what's the word, eye-popping. They all were expected, as the first round was actually all chalk. So USC took down Texas A&M Corpus Christi 3-0. That wasn't too surprising. Then Florida State was the next duel. They took down Stetson 3-0. That wasn't surprising. And then Stanford took down Chattanooga 2-0, or 3-0, which that wasn't surprising by any means. I was like, come on, when are we going to get an exciting duel? We finally got one with Cal versus Long Beach State. And this duel boiled down to the four pairs, and it boiled down to a decisive third set. It was unbelievably amazing. And Long Beach State actually had their chance. And this is the classic 8 versus 9 match. This was just unbelievable. And Long Beach State led 14-12. It looked like Long Beach State was finally going to win their first ever National Collegiate Beach Volleyball Tournament. Because if you remember, Long Beach State has not won a postseason match or a National Collegiate Beach Volleyball Tournament match in the new National Collegiate Beach Volleyball Tournament format. Like they've won, remember in 2013, they won the AVCA, I think it was called the AVCA Collegiate Beach Volleyball Invitational or Tournament. Regardless, that's the only bit of history they've had in terms of like winning a championship. But a lot of other teams kind of won that, like USC, Florida State, Pepperdine, et cetera, et cetera. But Long Beach State led 14-12 in the third set. The Forest pair misses it long, and then Cal eventually sides out and ties it up at 14-14. And then Cal manages to get an ace, and now it's 15-14. And then Long Beach State wins a long rally. I got to give it up to Victoria Hankel. She was just fantastic. She was on her A game. She was just sprawling all over the place. And then suddenly was tied at 15-15. And then it was tied at 16-16 until... And yeah, Long Beach State actually dealt an ace, and then suddenly it was match point for Long Beach State again. But then Cal managed to dodge that match point, the match point or dual point. And then Cal managed to get their own match point, their second match point. And then Long Beach State hit it wide. And I was hoping that ball hit the line, but unfortunately it hit wide. And Gia Fisher of Cal let out the biggest jump for joy. She was like, "Yay, we won!" And it kind of felt like Cal was going to be in that situation where they were last year, where they lost a close one to Texas last year. And yeah, but this time Cal flipped the script and they wound up beating Long Beach State 3-2. So yeah. Yeah, thank you. He says, hope you get the coverage access to the Final Four. Thanks for your analysis and athletes and coach access. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for following and thank you for your support. It means a lot. So yeah. Yeah, Cal wound up beating Long Beach State. I actually got a chance to see the tail end of this duel with the Long Beach State women's volleyball coaches just because they had some players playing on that beach volleyball team, a.k.a. Maddie Maxwell and Maddie Collins. So that was that for that little duel. The next duel, I think, was UCLA-Tulane, and UCLA swept Tulane 3-0. And then the next duel was another exciting duel. It was TCU-LMU, which was a rematch of last year's national championship. And this was definitely the duel of the day. I mean, you could pick between Cal, Long Beach State, and LMU-TCU. Like, I'll say, I mean, you can't go wrong with both. I mean, Long Beach State-Cal, to me, was the duel that basically aged everybody 10 years. But this duel was just as good, as LMU wound up winning an instant classic over TCU, winning it 3-2. And look, LMU fought tooth and nail, and they knew when they saw the draw and they saw TCU, they said, and I took that personally. Because remember, LMU lost to TCU in the national championship last year, and now LMU got a little bit of revenge. Now, I know TCU wasn't as good as they're nowhere near as good as they were last year. Let's keep it a buck. TCU was not as good this year as they were last year. But TCU fought tooth and nail. Unfortunately, LMU just had just enough in the tank to win. So it was, like I said, it was all chalk through the first round. And look, I like the NCAA beach volleyball tournament, but this is kind of the reason why it's so hard to engage. Not just because it's on the same weekend as the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament or the NCAA Men's Volleyball Tournament, but because the first round is mainly, there's no upsets. It's like, come on. It's like, give me one good upset. That's why I picked Long Beach State over Cal and TCU over LMU, because I want to see upsets. I don't want to see all chalk. I mean, back in the old days, we had upsets. But I digress. Okay, so next matchup was day 2. So day 2 actually had the quarterfinals and semifinals. So the first the first duel was Stanford versus Cal. Stanford, look, even though Stanford has a habit of kind of getting chicken skin in the quarterfinal round as of years past, this year they didn't, as Stanford took down Cal 3-1. I'm going to be 100% realistic. No matter who Stanford drew from that 8-9 matchup, Stanford was going to win. If they drew Long Beach State, they would have beaten Long Beach State. If they drew Cal, they were going to beat Cal. Stanford advanced to their first ever Final Four, which I thought was awesome sauce. Now, here's the matchup I did not expect. Florida State, 5-seed Florida State versus 4-seed USC. Florida State actually took down USC 3-0. Now, I know Florida State had beaten USC early in the season by that exact same score, but it's like, I did not think USC was going to fail to even win a point in the duel. I mean, could they have won a point in the duel had the air horn not gone off after Florida State won that third point? Probably. But honestly, Florida State just really they just were on their A game. And it's courtesy of Audrey Koenig and Alexa Sturridge. Those two were undefeated. I think they went undefeated the entirety of this year. I think they went like 32-0 or 33-0. But regardless, Florida State advanced to the Final Four. So remember, Florida State had such a young team last year, but they eventually wound up advancing to the now this year's team is a lot more grown up, and they advanced to the Final Four. But man, USC disappointed me. Like, I think of all the teams in this tournament that disappointed, I kind of think SC disappointed the most. And that's no knock against USC, just because they have good players. Just that I think they're a little on the young side. I still think they have young, up-and-coming talent. I just didn't think they would lose 3-0 to Florida State. But had USC advanced, it would not have been all chalk. So, or no, had USC advanced, it would have been all chalk. But Florida State had other plans. So going to the next duel, we had UCLA-Cal Poly. UCLA took down Cal Poly 3-1. Now, Cal Poly the past 2 years had been notoriously known for pulling off upsets and making the Final Four, regardless of who they faced. Whether they were the 6th seed and they faced the 3 seed, they were determined to pull the upset. But unfortunately, they faced UCLA, which was definitely the standard for the most part of this year, as UCLA took down Cal Poly 3-1 to advance to the Final Four. And then the other matchup was Texas LMU. And even though LMU got 1 point, honestly, Texas was in control for the most part, as they took down LMU 3-1 to advance to their first ever national semifinal or national Final Four. That was really awesome to see Texas, which actually set up the duel between Texas and UCLA, which was the MPSF tournament final. And it also sets up Stein Metzger, the former UCLA coach, taking on the current head coach, and basically the changing of the guard, or the new guard at UCLA beach volleyball, Jenny Johnson-Jordan. So before we got that duel, we actually had Stanford, Florida State, and through two matches, it was actually tied 1-1, and then the last 3 remaining matches of the duel went through 3 sets. But Stanford was able to win 2 out of those 3 sets, and the third 3-set match actually was undecided or unfinished, as Stanford wound up winning the match, or they wound up winning the duel 3-1 to advance to their first ever national championship, which was really cool. Now for Florida State, this was a tough loss for them, but they have a lot of players returning, and they're only going to get better. If I'm a Florida State beach volleyball fan, they're only going to get better because they've got two really good players coming in Avery Junk and Addie Junk. I can confirm that those two players are superstars. They played in an AVP beach volleyball qualifier in Austin, Texas, and they got third. They took down professionals, and I don't even think they've graduated high school yet they're taking down professionals and winning bronze and that sort of thing. So Avery and Addie Junk. Remember that name on Florida State in terms of beach volleyball. So then next up, we had UCLA Texas in the other semifinal, where UCLA actually went up 2-0 in the duel. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, Texas is in trouble. But then Texas wound up winning the next 2 points. And I'm thinking, it's getting interesting. Could we see another reverse sweep? Because UCLA did get reverse swept in the MPSF tournament final. But UCLA was not going to have any of that, as just like the Cal Long Beach State duel, UCLA Texas actually wound up being decided at the fives, and it was decided in a third set where UCLA wound up winning it 3-2, where they wound up winning the fives match 2-1, and they wound up winning the duel 3-2. And I gotta say, UCLA's fives pair, I don't know the other girl, but Mallory Labreche, she was darn good. And that fives pair they've had their fair share of ups and downs, but honestly, the five pairs really came up big for UCLA. So I really got to give it up to UCLA's fives pair in terms of coming up big in this NCAA tournament. So now the national championship consisted of 1-seed Stanford versus 3-seed UCLA. It was an all NPSF tournament final. But in the end, UCLA wound up winning the national championship. They dominated. They wound up winning the duel in less than an hour flat. They wound up winning it in 58 minutes. It's like, God. And UCLA was just in total control. It felt like UCLA did not have any signs of letting up. And here's the big thing. I think it was Sally Perez. One of the ones pairs for UCLA. She actually landed awkwardly after colliding with Avery Jackson, and it looked like she wasn't going to be able to continue because in NCAA beach volleyball, if one of your players gets injured and she can't continue, that pair forfeits, and then the other team gets the point. You can't sub like you can in regular volleyball. But Sally Perez, to her credit, she kept on going, and UCLA always gets called gutty little Bruins. She was a gutty little Bruin, and she helped will her and Maggie Boyd to winning at the ones. And it was only fitting that Sally Perez put down the national championship dual point for UCLA. So I thought that was a really cool thing right there. And it shows that Sally Perez has the heart of a champion, because it's tough because if you land awkwardly, because sand is sometimes uneven, and if you collide at the net, it just makes it even worse. But Sally Perez just really showed a lot of grit and determination. Also got to give the flowers to Maggie Boyd, who was the AVCA Player of the Year. So that was awesome stuff right there. So congratulations to UCLA. My takeaway for Stanford is this. They had the worst match of their season. I'm sorry, but they had a clunker match. And sometimes it happens. You have clunker matches at the worst time. But it doesn't take away from the amazing season that Stanford had. I think Stanford will be back on the big stage. They do lose the likes of Kelly Bellardi, but I think they do return a good portion of their team. I think Ruby Sora returns, as well as Avery Jackson. I think they'll be fine. It is going to be tough to replicate Kelly Bellardi's amazing win streak, and I think she's the all-time win leader at Stanford in terms of beach volleyball. But that being said, I think Stanford will be fine in terms of its future. They just got to make sure that UCLA, USC, or anyone else doesn't pluck their players or their recruits and whatnot. So congratulations to UCLA on returning back to the top of the NCAA beach volleyball world. And I gotta say, Jenny Johnson-Jordan also made history in the win over Texas. And how fitting was this? she actually wound up winning her 100th win as head coach. And it was against Stein Metzger, the former UCLA beach volleyball coach, who taught Jenny Johnson-Jordan everything in terms of like being the assistant coach after Stein Metzger stepped down to go coach at Texas. So I think it was really fitting that Jenny Johnson-Jordan wound up winning her 100th duel as head coach against the former UCLA head coach in Stein Metzger. So you just can't script this, ladies and gentlemen. So congratulations to UCLA, and they're going to be the number one team in terms of the final AVCA polls. I'd be shocked if they weren't. I mean, they're the national champs. What can you really say? But that's that for the NCAA beach volleyball portion of the show. So now let's talk a little MLV. So the MLV playoffs had already been finalized, as the San Diego Mojo and the Omaha Supernovas were already into the playoffs. But what hadn't been decided was where would the Supernovas and where would the the San Diego Mojo land. So before we get on into that, there was actually some breaking news on, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. So the San Diego Mojo actually came out with a statement that unfortunately the San Diego Mojo aren't going to be around for the MLV season next year because I think ownership sucks. And yeah, it's unfortunate. And I actually do want to see the actual statement just so I'm not just, BSing and, you know what I mean. I'm not just like paraphrasing. That's the words, paraphrasing. So yeah, San Diego actually made a statement, and I want to read the statement to you all. So the statement reads, the San Diego Mojo organization is heartbroken to announce that this Thursday, April 30th, against the Grand Rapids Rise will be their final home match. We invite all of San Diego to join us for a night of unmatched energy as we send head coach Alicia Glass-Childress, it's supposed to be Alicia Glass-Childress, and her gritty Mojo squad off to the championship weekend in Dallas. Let's give those world-class athletes a home court send-off that resonates as they vie for the MLV title. And then, owners Jerry Ann Jacobs, and Gary Jacobs. Cultural commitment to San Diego remains unwavering. Gary remarked, from the outset, our vision included a long-term plan to support the Mojo and the San Diego market in lieu of playing in 2027. We plan to use that season to create and execute a strategic plan for 2028 and beyond. The league believes a different direction is required. Well, maybe if you actually have better ownership. Major League Volleyball remains committed to San Diego and will lead the effort to identify potential new investors to carry the Mojo forward. Translation: the San Diego Mojo have crappy ownership, and unfortunately that's par for the course when it comes to San Diego sports, including the Chargers, but I digress. We are immensely proud of the front office team assembled over the past 6 months and are profoundly grateful to Coach Childress, her staff, and the remarkable group of players. They turned an underdog story into a championship caliber reality, matching the best play in league history. Most importantly, the Mojo are infinitely grateful to our fans and sponsors. The memories we've built are foundational, and we are proud to have brought families and friends together through incomparable shared experiences. Please join us this Thursday. Let's push these incredible players toward the championship they and San Diego deserve. Yeah. So yeah, that was basically the statement from the San Diego Mojo. I think it's disappointing just because now there's no MLV team in California. Well, there's going to be a team in MLV in Northern California next year, but there's not going to be a team in Southern California. And just like before, I really wish I could have gone to an MLV match. So sadly, that is not going to be the case, which, God, that sucks. But that's what you get for having crappy ownership. So my hope is that the San Diego Mojo win this whole thing, but I don't want to like spite the other teams just because just because reasons. So there you have it right there. So yeah, now let's go over the final week of the MLV season, just because, well, for starters, we got to wrap it up. I mean, let's go over the matchups that did not mean squat diddly jack, just because we already know who the tournament field is. We don't need to talk about the Columbus Fury. With all due respect to the Fury and all the other teams that didn't make the playoffs, those teams, unfortunately, did not add to the equation. The math wasn't mathing. No. Anyway, so Thursday, the San Diego Mojo actually did sweep the Grand Rapids Rise. And believe it or not, it was actually their first home sweep of the season. So great job to the Mojo. And they came one step closer to locking up the number 3 seed of the MLV playoffs. So Friday, we had the Orlando Valkyries sweeping the Atlanta Vibe. Nothing really. I mean, the Valkyries wound up winning it, but honestly, they were eliminated from playoff contention the minute Omaha and San Diego clinched their final playoff berth. And then the Indy Ignite outlasted the Columbus Fury 3-2. I mean, the Indy Ignite, I'm actually going to make a correction from last week. I said if Indy loses out and then Dallas wins out, Dallas might actually have a chance for the number 1 seed. That's actually not true. Indy actually clinched the number 1 seed before the Dallas Pulse, even if the Dallas Pulse wound up winning out. So Indy, the win over Columbus basically just gave them an extra boost in terms of more wins. So Indy was the number 1 seed no matter what. And then Columbus Fury, like I mentioned, I mean, the Columbus Fury showed a lot of grit and effort, but I don't know if Indy played all their starters just because they don't want any of their starters getting hurt, but I digress. But here was an actual match that actually mattered. The Omaha Supernovas at the Dallas Pulse. So here's the situation for the Supernovas and the Pulse. Well, for the Supernovas at the very least. If the Omaha Supernovas won their matchup and then the Indy Ignite beat the San Diego Mojo, the Supernovas would be the 3 seed and then the Mojo would be the 4 seed. Unfortunately for the Supernovas, even though the Dallas Pulse had basically were locked in at the number 2 seed, the Pulse didn't care. They wound up taking down the Supernovas in straight sets. So, yeah, Dallas basically gave the middle finger to Omaha and said, "We don't care if you're the number 2. We don't want you to be the number 3 seed. Have fun playing Indy in the first round or the semifinals." But I digress. And then Sunday, we had the Atlanta Vibe taking down the Columbus Fury, which that was kind of a final hurrah match for both teams. Yeah, I really hope for the sake of the Columbus Fury, they don't have another god-awful season like they had this year. Because, man, that was forgettable. And then every other match, unfortunately, didn't really have any meaning to it. I mean, Indy San Diego was basically just the final tune-up match, and Indy wound up beating the Mojo 3-1. I mean, had the Supernovas wound up winning it, I could see the Mojo playing their starters, but I don't think the Indy Ignite wound up playing their starters. So yeah, the Indy Ignite, they were just on a tear this year. And then the Dallas Pulse and the Orlando Valkyries, that match actually had no consequence for the Pulse. So the Valkyries actually wound up winning it. I imagine the Pulse wound up resting their starters or not playing all their starters a whole lot, as the Valkyries just had one more hurrah before they have to pass the torch off. So the Valkyries will not be repeating as MLV champions. So sadly, that is how Orlando's season came to an end. Unfortunately, it was just plagued with so many injuries, with the likes of Hannah Maddox and Brittany Abercrombie just getting hurt. And it sucks because Abercrombie getting hurt and missing most of the season was what derailed Orlando's season. If Abercrombie or at least Hannah Maddox is still healthy, this Orlando team is probably vying for a playoff spot. But unfortunately, they got plagued with injuries, and they wound up, unfortunately, losing when it mattered most. So yeah. All right, but that is that right there for the final week of the regular season. Now let's go over the MLV playoff preview. So the playoff preview is 1 seed Indy Ignite versus 4 seed Omaha Supernovas, and then the 2 seed Dallas Pulse taking on the 3 seed San Diego Mojo. So all the entire tournament, or the entire semifinals, the entire playoffs will be taking place at Comerica. Yeah, I think it's pronounced Comerica Center in the Dallas area. So basically, the Dallas Pulse have home court advantage. So, okay, time to make some predictions here. So first semifinal match, you've got the 1 seed Indy Ignite taking on the 4 seed Omaha Supernovas. This might be the most intriguing matchup of the semifinals. Between these two teams, here's the storyline between these two teams. The Omaha Supernovas want to get back to their winning ways after they've had a roller coaster of a season with the likes of Lucas Slabe sadly getting dismissed midway through the season, while the Indy Ignite are trying to do what Indiana's football team did and bring home a championship to the state of Indiana. Here's the thing. Indy has been dominant throughout the entire season. But the Omaha Supernovas, if they play their best game, I mean, Thomas Robson is actually doing really good as an interim head coach. Here's my thing, however. Indy is just they have yet to hit their rough patch. And that's a scary thing. It's scary for two reasons. One, it's scary because Indy has not had a bit of a rough patch in terms of their season, because every MLV team goes through a rough patch. That being said, Indy has not hit their rough patch in terms of this season. Omaha has had a fair share of their rough patches, especially since Lucas Slabe sadly got dismissed. But here's the thing. Omaha is just so dangerous, and so is Indy. Both these teams have good fan bases, and both these teams love to show up and show out. That being said, I'm actually going to go with the Omaha Supernovas. Here's why. When it comes to the number 1 seed, and I actually replied this to Lincoln Arneal's post saying that the Omaha Supernovas were locked in at the number 4 seed. The number 1 seed of the MLV/Pro Volleyball, or the PVF / MLV playoffs, has never won a playoff game and has never advanced to the match for $1 million. And you also got to remember that the Supernovas lost to the Ignite last year. So I imagine most of the Supernovas team will have a little revenge on their mind. And you also got to remember that Sydney Hilly was on that Indy Ignite team last year. So Hilly knows much about the Ignite more than anybody. But the same can be said for Indy when it comes to Sydney Hilly. But that being said, this has a lot of storylines. It's a rematch of last year's semifinal match where the Ignite, which was the 4 seed, stunned the number 1 seed Supernovas. But now the shoe's kind of on the other foot. Indy's the 1 seed and Omaha's the 4 seed. And this time the shoe's going to be on the other foot because I have Omaha beating Indy. And I'm going to say they win in 5. If Omaha pushes this one to 5, I think Omaha can win it just because they're a gritty bunch, and I think Omaha is definitely good. So give me the Supernovas to upset the Indy Ignite. All right, now for the next matchup. You got the number 2 seed Dallas Pulse and the host team taking on the number 3 seed San Diego Mojo. This is another interesting matchup. So the Dallas Pulse is in its first year. They're the new expansion team, and they have home court advantage. That's something we all need to know. That being said, you've got the San Diego Mojo, who start off the season 1-6, and I was thinking, okay, well, it's going to be another one of those seasons for San Diego. Nope. San Diego actually wound up turning it around, and God, they've actually been playing some darn good volleyball as of late. Now, that being said, this is my big problem with San Diego. Yeah, they're 15-13, but they're 6-8 on the road. And then even though Dallas is 9-5 on the road, I still think that's pretty solid if you ask me. That being said, it's so tough to really think because San Diego really wants to end their season off on a high note. They really want to make it. They want to at least make the championship match. And part of me really wants them to win the whole thing just because they won't be back next year, and hopefully they'll be back for the near future. And they've got some good players. Like Grace Loberg has been playing really good as of late. I mean, shoot, San Diego's playing with house money. They've got nothing to lose. I mean, obviously their season would be over and next year would be over, but still, they can play loose, relaxed, and free. But I have to go with the Dallas Pulse. Here's why. I think the Pulse with home court advantage is just going to be too much for the Mojo. As good as San Diego is, and as resilient and how they've turned it around this season and how impressive that was, I think the Pulse just have too much in the tank. They've got Mimi Collier, who's really good. They've got Sofia Maldonado Diaz. This Dallas team is just loaded, and they're only in year one. So I love the San Diego Mojo. I am from Southern California, but I got to go with the Dallas Pulse here. And it pains me to have to pick against the Mojo just because I love a good underdog story. But unfortunately, I think the Pulse advance, which means my MLV or Match for a Million championship match will be the Dallas Pulse versus the Omaha Supernovas. Texas versus Nebraska. Where have we seen that before? Anyway, but this isn't Austin, Texas. This is just Dallas, Texas. But I digress. Anyway, so Dallas versus Omaha. Okay, this one's going to be fun. And I could still see Omaha fans taking over Comerica Center. That being said, look, Omaha is really good, but they now know the blueprint of the Dallas Pulse. That being said, I think the Dallas Pulse win this whole thing. Dallas, I think, has been dominant throughout most of the season. I know they hit a couple rough patches, but they haven't had the ups and downs like Omaha has. I think Omaha is going to give Dallas all that they can handle. But that being said, I think Dallas is just going to have enough in the tank to win, just because Dallas, to me, is really good. I think Dallas has the complete package this year. And I think they're going to continue the prophecy of the number 2 seed winning the MLV Match for a Million, which I think is pretty cool just because, well, every 2 seed has won the Match for a Million. The Omaha Supernovas did it back in the PVF's first year, and then the Orlando Valkyries did so last year against the 4 seed Indy Ignite. So now I think the Dallas Pulse take down the Omaha Supernovas. I like Omaha. I'm kind of a mini fan of Omaha, like a mini fan. I'm not a diehard fan, but I think Dallas is just going to have enough and a lot more in the tank. I think Omaha is going to really give it to them, but I think Dallas is going to take what Omaha can throw and dish it back. So give me Dallas to win in a barn burner. So that'll do it for the MLV playoff preview or MLV semifinal preview. So the first match is going to be on Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Hopefully I'll have another preview of this matchup and then a preview of the NCAA Men's Volleyball Final Four. So there you go. All right, so that is that for the MLV playoff preview. So now let's talk a little high school boys volleyball. So the CIF Southern Section Division I quarterfinal matchups are here. And believe it or not, I actually got every pick right. So if you all remember, I picked Tesoro over Los Alamitos, Corona Del Mar over Mater Dei, Newport Harbor over Long Beach Milliken, and then Santa Margarita over San Marcos. That being said, it's time to make my predictions for the quarterfinals and semifinals and which 2 teams are going to make the CIF Southern Section Division I championship. So let's go from top to bottom, starting with the first matchup. Tesoro at Miracosta. Look, Tesoro is actually kind of a sneaky good team. This is kind of the battle of 2 teams that won the CIF Southern Section Championship last year. Tesoro wound up winning in Division III, while Miracosta wound up winning it in Division I. The 2 teams have also met earlier in the season as the Mustangs swept the Titans in Best of the West. That being said, look, I like Rich Polk. I think he has a great team, but Miracosta is on a whole other level. So give me the mighty Mustangs to take down Tesoro. I mean, that one's kind of the easy one to predict just because it's the 8 versus 1. I feel Tesoro beating Los Alamitos was kind of the whole Wario meme with I've won, but at what cost? And that's, I hate to have to say that, but it's kind of the truth. So, yeah, I've got Miracosta advancing past Tesoro. Then we've got arguably the best quarterfinal matchup, Corona Del Mar at Huntington Beach. It's the rubber match between these 2 Sunset League teams. And, boy, this could have easily been Corona Del Mar's home match had they not lost to Edison. But here's the thing. I think Corona Del Mar is playing better volleyball as of late. Ever since those losses to Edison and Huntington Beach, they have not lost ever since. And they've only lost 1 set, and that was to Newport Harbor, which there is no problem with losing a set to Newport Harbor. Huntington Beach, I mean, they haven't lost to too many bad teams. I mean, they have one loss to Corona Del Mar. They've got 2 losses to Costa. They've got 1 loss to Loyola. I think this Huntington Beach team, look, they're going to benefit from being at home, but Corona Del Mar does not care by any means. The Sea Kings are on a mission, and this matchup is easily the matchup that can go either way, and it's a 4 versus 5 matchup. So that being said, I actually have Corona Del Mar advancing. I think the Sea Kings leadership is going to be just enough to outlast Huntington Beach. And I know Huntington Beach beat Corona Del Mar at Huntington Beach in the second league meeting, but I think that was when Corona Del Mar was kind of in a little disarray. Now that they're not in disarray anymore, I think they now know what to expect when it comes to Huntington Beach. And even though Huntington Beach knows what to expect with Corona Del Mar's 6-2 offense, I think Corona Del Mar will run that 6-2 offense to a T. So you have that matchup. Then you've got Newport Harbor at Loyola. So it's the second meeting between these two teams as the Cubs took down the Sailors in straight sets early in the season. This is an intriguing matchup. So Newport Harbor, they cruised past Long Beach Milliken. I mean, I'm not going to lie, they didn't have any trouble. But then again, no team had trouble with their first-round opponent. Every first-round matchup was a sweep, and it wasn't. And if it weren't for Santa Margarita being San Marcos, it would have been all chalk. But look, Newport Harbor, they're gritty. They've got some dudes that could probably ball out at the 4-year level or the collegiate level, but they don't want to. They want to be more students than student athletes. They've got good players like Zach DeMaio. They've also got Alex Wick. I think Wesley Feld could be on the rise. I mean, it all depends on what lineup Newport Harbor wants to trot out. Do they want to put Zach DeMaio at they want to put Zach DeMaio at opposite, or do they want to put him at middle and then put Mott's Aarons as at middle blocker 2, or do they want to put Hudson Mann at middle blocker 2 and then Mott's Aarons at middle blocker 1 and Zach DeMaio on the right side? So they've also got Henry Clemo on the right side as well. So I guess that kind of instead of like him being at his outside hitter 2 position. So it's going to really depend on what lineup Pat Eaton wants to trot out. That said, I think Loyola wins this. Look, this pains me to have to pick against Newport Harbor, but I think Loyola is just too stacked across the board. I think Loyola checks off most of those boxes against Newport Harbor. And the thing that Loyola has going for them is experience. And also, this is actually on this recording, May 4th, 2026, this actually marks the 1-year tragic passing of Braun Levy. And you already know Loyola is going to be playing with that on their mind. But it's not going to be like last year where a lot of those Loyola kids sadly were just grieving and they were just rattled and just not fully focused. I think that this year it's going to be a whole lot different. They're going to be fighting for Braun Levy. They're going to be battling against Newport Harbor for Braun Levy. But same can be said for the Sailors as well. And you also got to remember that Loyola actually lost to Newport Harbor last year in the playoffs, as that loss pretty much derailed Loyola's season. Or that pretty much ended Loyola's season, just because that pretty much knocked them out of qualifying for state and qualifying for the CIF Southern Section Division I finals. But either way, this time it's going to be different. Loyola advances past Newport Harbor, and I don't want to hear it from all my Newport Harbor friends and fans and players and all that sort of thing. But I have Loyola advancing. I think, and you also got to remember, JP Wardy is probably going to have another legacy game. And Blake Fallbush is going to be playing as well, because Fallbush didn't play the first meeting against Newport Harbor. Now he's going to play in this meeting against Newport Harbor. So that's going to be scary times for the Sailors. And then the final quarterfinal matchup is Santa Margarita Redondo Union. All right, this one is kind of a no-brainer. As good as Santa Margarita was in terms of beating San Marcos on the road in 3, I don't think Lightning is going to strike twice. And look, they got to go on the road again to face another good team in Redondo. It won't be as long as the trip won't be as long as it was in the first round, but Redondo Union is going to be a very good team. The Seahawks love to serve the ball well. And if they serve that ball tough and they get you out of system, it's going to be a tragic ending for you. So as good as Santa Margarita is, and as fun of an upset as they had in round 1, I got Redondo Union getting past Santa Margarita. If Santa Margarita had Will Spalding, I think the Eagles would have a chance, but I just think Redondo's just too good. So that means my semifinal, the top semifinal I would have would be Miracosta Corona Del Mar. Now, this one is an intriguing matchup. So Miracosta has pretty much been the big bad team. I thought they were going to take a step back this year just because they lost the likes of Grayson Bradford and Thatcher Fallbush and Andrew Chapin and I forget, it's something, Alex Hines, that's his name. They lost a lot of those guys. They lost a lot of their guys to graduation, but they've really stepped up. I mean, Mateo Furbringer is on a whole other level. Justin Warner is still absolutely tough as nails at the libero position. You also have Teddy Mandelbaum stepping up as an outside for Miracosta. Wyatt Davis is a threat in the middle. Jake Newman has really adapted well at the setter position. That being said, look, Corona Del Mar, they've lost to Miracosta twice. The first time they lost, okay, they've played 3 times already. Corona Del Mar beat Miracosta at Miracosta in 2, but they were only running 7 players. The second meeting, Miracosta swept Corona Del Mar at Corona Del Mar, but CDM didn't have Daniel Booker as Booker was sick. And then the second meeting was Miracosta beating Corona Del Mar in straight sets in the Best of the West tournament championship match. But that was because Corona Del Mar was running only 7 players, and those players easily got gassed throughout the entire tournament. This time around, I think Corona Del Mar wins it. Now, y'all are probably going to say I've gone crazy, but this time Corona Del Mar has a different offense. They're running a 6-2 offense. Whether it's going to be at Corona Del Mar, if it's at Corona Del Mar, then the Sea Kings definitely have a very good chance. If it's at Miracosta, I think Corona Del Mar definitely has a good chance at it. The Sea Kings have something that Miracosta doesn't really have too much of: senior experience. They've got Ben Brown, they've got Hunter Hanneman, Brady Gant, Drake Foley, Chapman Warmington, Jack Robinson, and even Daniel Booker's been fantastic in the middle. I mean, if they get Daniel Booker going, honestly, Corona Del Mar has arguably the best team in the nation. And their 6-2 offense has definitely been well. I think Marco DeBella has done an outstanding job at the setter position, and he has not taken those starting minutes for granted. So I think Corona Del Mar stuns the world, and they take down Miracosta, whether it's on the road or whether it's at Corona Del Mar. Give me the Sea Kings over the Mustangs. And then also, my other semifinal would be Redondo Union Loyola. Now, this is going to be a fun matchup. The Seahawks versus the Cubs. It's the rubber match between these two teams, as Loyola wound up winning the first meeting in 5, and then Redondo wound up winning the second meeting in the Redondo Power Classic in 3, in a best 2 out of 3 match. But this time it's going to be a really interesting match. I think it's going to boil down to which team can serve the ball well, which team can pass the ball well, and which team just has the best night offensively. Man, this one's going to be tough. I mean, you can't go wrong with Redondo Union winning, but you also can't go wrong with Loyola winning, just because Loyola definitely has a good shot at winning this whole thing, because they've got some good players of their own. They've got J.P. Wardy, Blake Fallbush. I forget this guy's name. I think it's like Lucas Possell or Logan Possell. Either way, Loyola's got some really darn good players. And they've got Will Kelly. I think that's his name. It's Sean Kelly's little brother who's committed to playing at Loyola Chicago. So he goes from one Loyola to another, which I think is pretty cool. That being said, look, it's tough to pick against Redondo Union because they've got some college-bound boys of their own. They've got 3 players going to MIT. Cash Essert is going to is committed to Lindenwood, which I think is pretty cool. And then they've got a few other college D1-bound guys as well. But that being said, I have Loyola winning it. I think the Cubs, they have a lot to play for this week. They're playing for Braun Levy. They're playing for their fans. I think this is Loyola's year of redemption. And I think it's going to be a year where I think these two matchups between Newport Harbor and Redondo, if it comes down to it, it's going to really test Loyola. But I think Loyola is up for the challenge. I think Loyola is going to step up, and I think they're going to take it all, just because I think the senior leadership and the will to fight for Braun Levy is going to really propel them to victory, just because I think Loyola is talented, and they know last year they're much better than what last year dictated. It's just that a lot of things happened, just because sadly they kind of had a roller coaster ride toward the end of the season. But now that everything is pretty much set and cleared, now that the Palisades fires are done, now that they know what they're fighting for, not just themselves, they're fighting for a fallen teammate. They know they have to play for everybody, for said people. So yeah, I have Loyola and Corona Del Mar in the CIF Southern Section Division I championship. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack from a lot of people who are fans or parents or players of those teams, or of fans, players, or parents not of those teams. But to me, I think those two teams are well equipped with the senior leadership, and I think that is who I think will be in the Division I finals. Now, watch the final just somehow be like Huntington Beach, Redondo Union, or Huntington Beach, Newport Harbor. That would be the ultimate punchline right there. But to me, I think Corona Del Mar Loyola is a very valid pick for me. So those are my picks for the CIF Southern Section Division I playoffs, and in terms of the quarterfinals all the way to the championship match. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Again, I know it was another long episode, but we had to cover everything. As next Monday, I know that's going to be the national championship of the National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Tournament, or the NCAA Men's Volleyball Tournament. So I'm hoping I will be on for Tuesday. Hopefully, same bat channel, same bat time, and same bat place. But until then, have yourself a great rest of the day, great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and enjoy all the volleyball action. And soon, AVP season is going to be happening. But first, I actually do got to mention a couple more things. So I got to give congratulations to Park of Arizona for winning the NAIA Men's Volleyball National Championship. They went a perfect 35-0. They took down the Masters University in 4 in the first round, or in the... Was it the Masters? Yeah, I think it was. I think it was. I actually don't remember, but I know that Park got past the semifinals, but I know they took down Mount Mercy in the national championship, or the NAI Red Banner match. But yeah, Park men's volleyball went a perfect 35-0 in terms of their season, which I think is really cool, if you ask me. I mean, it's never easy to go undefeated, no matter what sport it is, no matter what team it is. I just think that's really cool, if you ask me. So yeah, Park men's volleyball, 35-0, undefeated NAIA champions. So that's definitely really cool, as they're now the new number 1, which means the past 2 NAIA men's volleyball champions were undefeated. Last year it was the Masters University going undefeated. Now this year it is Park. So I actually do got to backtrack on something. So Park did take down Missouri Valley in the semifinals, and then they took down St. Xavier in the national championship. And St. Xavier took down the Masters in a rematch in the semifinals, in a rematch of last year's national championship. So there you go. But yeah, 35-0. Congratulations to Park for winning the national championship. So great job to them. And then one more thing is the NCAA Men's Volleyball Final Four is actually the first Final Four that won't have an MPSF team in its history. So the MPSF in men's volleyball originated in 1993, and ever since, there's been at least one MPSF team that's made the NCAA Men's Volleyball Final Four. And you got to go back to a lot of these teams being in the MPSF conference, such as Long Beach, the former Big West Conference schools. Then you also had CBU, San Diego State. The list goes on and on. Grand Canyon, before GCU decided to be stupid and whatnot. But yeah, this year's NCAA Men's Volleyball Final Four will actually mark the first time there is not one MPSF team in the Final Four. So if you're an MPSF fan, I'm sorry to have to tell that to you. But it also will mark the first time that 3 Big West Conference teams even though the Big West hasn't been around since 2018 in men's volleyball, that's going to mark the first time since 3 teams will be in the Final Four of men's volleyball, which I think is really cool. But yeah, I just wanted to share those late fun facts with you. Also need to give the flowers to Park. Way to go to them for them winning. And this is Park of Missouri, not Park of Arizona. So that's something to make note of. So I know there's like 2 parks, but yeah, it's Park of Parkville, Missouri. So just gotta throw that out there. So there you go. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode of Set Point. Next week is also episode 350. So episode 350 is going to be me recapping the NCAA Men's Volleyball National Championship. It's also going to be me recapping the MLV match for $1 million and the semifinals. And it's also going to be me previewing the CIF Southern Section Division I finals. So it's going to be really cool. But until then, you have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy all the volleyball action. And I'll hopefully see you all on Saturday at Poly Pavilion. Take care, everybody. Peace.